What is up, guys? Welcome back to this week's episode of Fight IQ. We're back with a pay-per-view, alright? This isn't an Apex fight card, this is a pay-per-view, alright? It's Sean O'Malley. He's got himself his undeserved title shot back at Merab Dvalishvili, alright? I don't have a dog in this race. Before you guys heard that little comment, alright, you might be thinking, well, this guy's a Merab fan, alright? And when I come back to this fight later, you're going to say, well, he's an O'Malley fan. I'm not. I don't like either of these guys. I don't like them, but I don't like them, alright? I don't have a dog in the race. I think they're both incredible athletes. They've achieved great things in both rights. And I'm going to leave it at that, alright? I love these sort of main events where you don't have a dog in the race. You don't have anyone to support. It takes that bit of anxiety, the nerves out of watching a fight, and you can just watch it for what it is. Two talented athletes banging it out. So, there's a few fights to go through, guys. As always, going to start from the bottom of the card and work our way up. Kicking us off with Julian Salkid versus Yana Ashmouz. Yanal Ashmouz, alright. Both of these guys have an 8-win, 1-loss record. Julian Salkid, if you didn't know, is an Australian, alright? He won his debut fight via knockout, pretty quick knockout over Jubilee, something like that. I don't know too much about this Yanal Ashmouz, alright? Except like he's a scary looking guy, alright? He's a scary looking dude. That's all I really know, okay? 8-1 also. He's got 2 wins, 1 loss in the UFC. Julian Salkid, 1 fight, 1 win in the UFC. Going for stats, higher knockout percentage for Ashmouz. Strikes landed, more like the significant strikes landed lean more towards Julian Salkid. And then the grappling advantage leads more to Julian Salkid. But this is talking off of stats from a guy who's had 1 fight in the UFC. So, that's, it's hard to judge. I think this is a really good way to start off a card because Julian Salkid looks like he's going to be able to sell fights. Alright? He knocks the guy out in his last fight and he lights the cigar. That's dope. Alright? I'm going to admit, that's dope. And then Ashmouz, scary looking European guy. Yeah! Even though I don't think Israel is in Europe, but he looks European, so scary looking Ismail. Scary looking Ismail. Scary looking European, yeah! Who even is Ismail? Who's Ismail? Who is Joe? So yeah, this is a cool fight to kick off the card, guys. Lightweight bout. I'm an Australian. I've got to back the Australian. I've got to back the countryman. You guys know this if you've watched any of these fight IQs. I'm going to unzip this. I look like a fool. If you've watched any of these fight IQs, you'll know I'm going to back the Australian. I'm going to back my countryman. I'm going to back Julian Salkid. But I also do think that he may have what it takes. Alright. Up next, Jeka Sagai versus Jo Sang Yeol. South Korea versus Indonesia. This is a bit of a filler fight. 14-4 for Sagi versus Jo Sang Yeol. 8-0. Something's going on here. I don't know if he's a debutant. I don't know if he's a Dana White Contender Series guy. He's got the blackout. He's got the classic blackout picture. We don't know much about him. There's no real stats on the guy. Alright, so we got nothing much to go off of here, guys. This is a hard fight to pick. If you don't know anything about the guy that this Jo Sang Yeol guy, it's... We're in the dark. We're in the dark with one match, alright? And the only thing that's lit up in the room is Sagi. So, I'm really just going to be picking here off of country of origin. Indonesian fighters. I got that, Muay Thai style, that kickboxing Muay Thai style, high guard, lifting the knee, walking forward, just biting down on the mouthpiece and just, So, heavy on the Muay Thai, whereas, South Korea maybe mix it all in, shoot a takedown. I'm going to go Jo Sang Yeol on this. Jusang Yo on this one, guys. Anyway, I'll figure out how to pronounce his name on fight day. Arena del Silva versus Wang Chong. Forgive me if I'm wrong, but I think Wang Chong is the girl who does the Joker makeup. I think she's the Joker makeup girl. I see her winning this one, guys. She had her first fight in the UFC, it was a win, and then she lost. And I think that's not a career-defining loss for her. I think she's going to come back, and I think she's going to get a win here against Arena del Silva, alright? I don't know much about Arena del Silva. She's number 13 ranked. Obviously, you know, Fighting Field Insights, we don't overly follow the women's flyweight division all that much. So, Wang Chong. Give me Wang Chong to win by a split decision or something. On to the prelims. Only 3 early prelim fights, so I don't know if that's a typical thing, but anyway. On to the early prelims. Sergey Spivak versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Alright, Waldo Cortez Acosta, 11 ranked. Sergey Spivak, 7 ranked. Alright. Spivak, he's had a few good wins of late. Alright. His grappling is high level. Alright. I feel like he recently fought Marcin Tybura. Oh no, he recently fought Almeida. Yes, but so, you know, here it is. He submitted Tybura. And that's the recent good fight I'm thinking about. And he submitted Derek Lewis. Okay, that's all I needed to see. So Spivak's got it on the ground, alright? And we've always known he's got it on the ground. But Waldo Cortez Acosta, and we're gonna abbreviate that. Okay, why are we looking at Wang Chong again? We're gonna abbreviate that for WCA. WCA. He's a bigger heavyweight, right? He's a bigger heavyweight with the love handles and that. But he can move, alright? He can stick and move. He can stick and move. Play that outside foot battle. Alright. I think Waldo Cortez Acosta, WCA, I think he's probably going to utilize his speed. I think he's probably going to keep it on the feet. Oh, dude. Look at this. Is he undefeated? No, he's not. Delima got him. Wow. He's had some fights in the UFC, though, guys. Yeah, look. I'm going to go Waldo Cortez Acosta on this one. Alright, I'm going to go Waldo Cortez Acosta. I just think he's got a head full of steam. Alright. He's quick. Stick and move. Outside foot battle. Keep the fight on the feet. Sergey Spivak might get him down a few times. But if you're a fighter and all you've got to do is prepare in camp to not get submitted, then I think you have a higher chance of winning against a guy who has got to train not to get knocked out. So I'm going to go Waldo Cortez Acosta on this one, guys. Johnny Walker versus Azamat Murzakanov. Murzakanov. I don't know. Look, I actually rehearse these names before I make the video. Then as soon as I get in there, I can't pronounce them. Johnny Walker, legend of the light heavyweight division. He's been around for a long time. But he's an up and down. He's a win and lose fighter. Okay. Azamat has had nothing but a head of steam. And I don't know. This one's a hard fight to pick because Johnny Walker's just unpredictable. You know, when it comes to that win-lose, eventually it's going to be a win, right? And I can't particularly remember Johnny Walker's last fight. Who did Johnny Walker last fight, guys? Quick, before I pull this up. Ozdemir, and that was a pretty vicious finish. Alright, so his last win was against Anthony Smith. And then Paul Craig before that. And then Kutalaba before that. Alright. But are we looking at a slow decline in the Johnny Walker history? The history books of Johnny Walker. Are we looking at a slow decline? Alright. And we've seen what Volkan Ozdemir did to Johnny Walker with the hands, with the boxing. And I think Azamat's boxing is really good as well, guys. We look at a couple of Azamat's last finishes. TKO second round. Decision to Jacoby. But Jacoby's got a granite chin. Third round TKO. Third round TKO. Look at this, all right? So, he's never lost a fight, and he puts guys out on the feet. I think it's a bad matchup for Johnny Walker. Stature-wise, okay, Johnny Walker is the bigger fighter. Johnny Walker stands a bit taller. But I think purely off striking, once the chin's been cracked, it's hard to uncrack it, okay? I think his chin's going to be vulnerable in this fight against a dangerous striker on the feet in Asmat. So, yeah, give me Asmat to win this one, guys. I think it's just, when it comes to a time thing, I think it's more Asmat's time as to Johnny Walker's, all right? I think Johnny Walker's might be coming out. I think he might be just, fading away a little bit. This seems to me like a little bit of a stepping stone fight to push up Asmat into the rankings further. Only by one spot, but... Bruno Silva versus Joshua Van. I'm a bit of a Joshua Van guy. I don't mind Joshua Van. I enjoy watching his fights. I do like a prospect, okay? But Bruno Silva isn't he isn't an easy task. Bruno Silva's only had like a handful of losses in the UFC, 2 or 3 maybe 4 at max. Joshua Van has had 1 loss. Bruno Silva's most recent loss to Manuel Cape, I think. So, not an easy fight for Joshua Van by any means, especially it's a step up in competition. It's a step up in competition. Like his last, if you look through Joshua Van's wins, they're not like, they don't have the most tang to them. Whereas, Bruno Silva's got some decent names in there. So, but I think just purely going off of a prospect, going off of a fighter who wants it more, I think it's probably Joshua Van. And he did look really good in his last fight. It was quite a dominant performance in his last fight. Not like, 10-8 every round, but beat the other guy to the punch. Because he had tang to him. So, yeah, Joshua Van. Joshua Van's got my pick. I don't know really what to deep dive into this one, guys. All right, when you've got a little bit of fighter bias, it's just easier to just wrap it up quick and say, look, Joshua Van. All right, I think he's got the better striking. Bruno Silva is going to have the better grappling. But Joshua Van, I could be wrong. Joshua Van actually could have the better grappling. But look, I'm going to take Joshua Van in this one. I know it's not going to be a finish. It's going to be a close fight. But, yeah, give me Bruno Silva. Give me Joshua Van. Because of his tang. Now, on to the main card. Vicente Luque versus Kevin Holland. Vicente Luque, forgive me if I'm wrong, just came off a pretty good win. He just came off a pretty good win. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I could be very wrong here. But I'm not. I'm very right. Good win. Submission over Gamibao. And then he lost to Buckley and he only got a win over RDA. So he's not a bum. And he defended that spot. And honestly, if we didn't get to see that Gamibao performance, I would have been picking Kevin Holland here. But he looked good against Gamibao. And if he can use that style again of getting him to the ground and looking for a submission, I think he beats Kevin Holland. Is it just me or is that board closed in on me? I think he beats Kevin Holland if he can use that sort of, rough him up on the ground. Grab him by the scruff of the neck and rough him up. Yeah! I think he wins if he uses that style. Whereas, Kevin Holland... I swear I always see Kevin Holland in these number 14 or 13 or 15 ranked fights. And he's unranked. I feel like he's out of the rankings and he's back in, and he's out and he's in. So, the only way Kevin Holland wins this is by plot armor. Because the UFC just likes having him in the top 15. But I think Vicente Luque can do this, guys. I know he's coming to the back end of his career. I know he's had the brain damage issues, the bleeding on the brain and that. But I think he can win this fight. If he fights smart, he can win this fight and he can beat Kevin Holland. Because, Kevin Holland was scary back in 2020. Oh, yeah. Oh, Kevin Holland. But times have changed, right? And Kevin Holland just, wins the odd fight, crashes out on a podcast. Yeah, so Mario Bautista was supposed to be fighting Chito Vera. Chito Vera pulls out relatively short notice. In steps Bellator, former Bellator champion Patchy Mix. Alright. Like, if I'm going to be honest, guys, bomb me. You know, say what you will, but I don't know who Patchy Mix is. I'm not a Bellator guy. I've never watched any Bellator fights, any Bellator cards. I don't know who Patchy Mix is. Okay. But I'm going to put a picture of Patchy Mix on screen for this entire segment, where he's supposed to be. Patchy Mix on screen. Mario Bautista, though. Mario Bautista, you know, he won that sort of stinky fight against... what's the guy's name? Jose Aldo. I do that on every video. I cannot remember Jose Aldo's name. Mario Bautista won a stinky fight against Jose Aldo. Patchy Mix, I don't know much about him. Okay, so by the time I edit this video, I'll know more about Patchy Mix. I'll know his age and, you know, his resume and all that. But, you know, I feel like if you're a former champ at Bellator, you might be pretty good. You might be good enough to maybe beat a Mario Bautista. So I think the UFC fans, what a better way to debut in the UFC. Because there is no more hated fighter than Mario Bautista for what he did to Jose Aldo, okay? So what a better way to make your debut in the UFC than by taking on the most hated UFC fighter. If you're a Bellator guy trying to make it in the UFC, the best way to become relevant in the UFC is to beat up someone that the UFC fans hate. And that's Mario Bautista. So I'm going to take, in saying that, I'm going to take Mario Bautista. Okay? Because we've seen what happened to Patricio Pitbull of recent. Debuting fighters from other promotions never seem to do too well, unless you're like a Michael Vanter Page. But, you know, if I check the stats after this and I, you know, see some interesting facts about Patchy Mix, I might change my prediction on screen. But for now, I'm sticking with Mario Bautista. Alright, he's number 10 ranked. He already beat a legend in Jose Aldo. Although it was a poo win, still beat him. So I'm going to go Mario Bautista here, guys. Kelvin Gastelum versus Joe Pyfer. Alright, early on in the Fighting Field Insights career, we actually covered this fight. And since then, Kelvin Gastelum has gotten significantly larger in this picture. I swear he was not this big last time. Because this fight was booked on another card earlier in the year, and we already covered it. We were making jokes about missing weight with Kelvin, missing weight with Galvin or Gastelum or whatever it is. Right? We were making jokes about that. And this picture seemingly has gotten worse. This is like, there's a little bit of muscle here and there, but dude, this is fupa. That's fupa. Like, that's just straight up fat, lad. Against, like, this just chiseled, fucking, like, angry, pissed off red nut in Joe Pyfer. So, like, my initial pick in this fight, when we first reviewed it, was Joe Pyfer. It's still Joe Pyfer, okay? I think Kelvin Gastelum, you know, might get in there and, you know, gritty, rough and tough guy, get in there and bite down on the mouthpiece and walk forward, might shoot a takedown or two, okay? But Joe Pyfer is my pick. I think Joe Pyfer will knock him out early. Alright, there just seems to be a lack of discipline out of Kelvin Gastelum. I'm not even going to dwell on this one too long, guys. Alright, Kelvin Gastelum had his day. Alright, he had his historic fight against Izzy. You know, he had the interim title fights and the rest. Okay, and he's beat the Bispings. Okay, but it's a new age. It's 2025. Kelvin Gastelum doesn't look like a professional athlete anymore. Alright, he's let himself go. Joe Pyfer looks like he's ready to win. I'm going Joe Pyfer. I could be wrong, because what's the boxer's name who fought Anthony Joshua? What was his name? I'll pull him up on screen. Alright. Because this guy was tubby. This was another tubby Mexican guy who looked ill-disciplined and went in there and won a belt. So, yeah, we could be looking at that again, but I just don't think so. This is UFC. This isn't boxing. And Joe Pyfer seems to me like he's just a pissed-off red nut. He's a little bit of a pissed off red nut. And he wants to win more than an Anthony Joshua, alright? He's a pissed off red nut with the purple shorts. And he's got a little bit of tang to him. All right, he's grown the beard in. He's got a little bit of hair on his head now. All right, he's got that bit tang to it. Oh yeah, Brock Lesnar's daughter versus Juliana Pena. This is one of the most... I'm actually quite pumped for this women's fight, all right? For the first time in a very long time. And I'm going to get the mic right up here with me. For the first time in a very long time, all right? This is a women's fight that has a little bit of substance to it. Has a little bit of interest to it, all right? It's the first time in a little... Juliana Pena and Kayla Harrison, they've been talking shit. They've been greasing the UFC money-making wheel, all right? They've been talking a lot of shit. They've been catfighting. They've been throwing it down. They've been getting down and dirty on the mics. And Kayla Harrison, all right, guys, she's a bit of a, yeah, she looks a little bit like a man, but she's Brock Lesnar's daughter. I'm going to stop this. She's Brock Lesnar's daughter. All right, and Juliana Pena is, I don't know where I'm even getting with this, but it's a cool fight, all right? They were yipping and yapping back at each other. And, Kayla Harrison, I do think, is probably going to go out there and steamroller, because that's what she's done to nearly everyone else. I think Kayla Harrison's going to steamroller. But Juliana Pena, she became champ for a reason. She was a champ before this. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a tough, nitty-gritty fight. But I'm going to have to steer... I'm going to have to steer towards Kayla Harrison, man. I'm going to have to steer towards Kayla Harrison. This is a real big fight. All jokes aside, it is a cool women's fight. I like that both girls have tried to promote this. Both girls have been yipping and yapping on the mic. That makes a good fight. It is... Okay, this board is etching closer. Jesus. It is a big fight. It has a big fight feel. And I think on fight night, Kayla Harrison will be one of the first women's fighters since the Ronda Rousey, since the Amanda Nunes, to have a big title, to have a big championship title moment, to have a big like submission in the first, or head kick KO. She'll be the first female fighter in years to have that kind of moment. Because I swear, back in the day, we used to see it all the time. You used to see Rose Namajunas head kick, knock out Zhang Weili for the belt, and Amanda Nunes, she was just knocking everyone out. And then you had like Shevchenko landing spinning back fist, and when Grasso jumped the rear naked choke out of the spinning attack from Shevchenko, like there used to be big female fight moments, and I swear we haven't seen one of them in such a long time. And I think Kayla Harrison is going to provide one of them, because I'm not even giving Juliana Pena a chance here. I think she's a little bit aged. All right, I think Brock Lesnar's daughter's just got it in the bag. I'm going Kayla Harrison here, guys. We actually did a little bit of a deep dive on a women's fight, all right? Don't get too used to this. Just did a little bit of a deep dive on the women's fights. Because Brock Lesnar's daughter's got a little bit of tang about her. Merab Dvalishvili versus Sean O'Malley. All right, guys. The long-awaited rematch. Oh, yeah. The long-awaited bantamweight rematch. Because Sean O'Malley... he tipped and topped. He tinged and tanged all his way back to a title fight. He put in his dues and he got back there, man. He fought the Piotr Yans. He went and fought Corey Sandhagens. But he didn't. He didn't fight anyone. All right. He sat on the bench until no one else could make the call. And Sean O'Malley slipped in there for a title shot. Admittedly, the first fight was a little bit close. It was a little bit close. But Merab still took your belt. And I feel like in the amount of time Sean O'Malley had off, he should have had a fight. All right, but he didn't. And now he's getting his belt. He's getting another shot at it. Okay, whoa, board. So... what have I got to say about this one? Yes, Sean O'Malley probably doesn't deserve this. All right. Granted, the first fight's close. Granted, there's rematch clauses and stuff like that, but I don't know. I don't think he really deserved this rematch. I think he should have fought one more time. It is what it is. The UFC are just trying their hardest to make us all hate Sean O'Malley. Okay. Merab, as good as Merab's been, beating Sean for the belt, it was a close fight. And then, same with the Umar Nurmagomedov fight. Sorry. Same with the Umar Nurmagomedov fight, alright? It was somewhat close. Merab is only getting older, guys. And I hate to be one of the guys to just push the whole age narrative in the UFC, but hey, guess what? Back when my boy Volkanovski wasn't the champ and he'd lost his belt and he was getting head kicked, knocked out, and he was getting brutalized up against the cage, every man and his dog was rushing to a comment section to say, well, Volk's too old. These guys are too young, they're too hungry. Okay? Merab's like 36 or something. If he's not 36, he's 35. He's getting up there in age. Alright, he's getting to the point where Volk was at when Volk was just getting chinned left, right, and center. Okay? So Sean O'Malley, similarities to Ilia Topuria on the fact that he can knock you, he can spark you. Yes, he hasn't sparked anyone since Aljo, and he didn't really even spark Aljo. Yes, he hasn't sparked anyone since then, but I think Sean O'Malley is a bit of an industry plant, and I think he does make them big moments happen. Because on paper, when he was fighting Aljo, it was like, well, Aljo's just going to backpack him. Aljo's just going to completely wet blanket him. But he didn't. And Sean knocked him out. And as much as Sean, he dyes the hair and, the UFC make us hate him and he says some pretty outlandish stuff. As much as all of that happens for Sean, he actually is a world-class athlete and he actually is really good, right? And as good as Merab is and, the endless cardio and he's just going to wrestle fuck the shit out of you. He's going to wrestle fuck the shit out of you, okay? All it takes is one shot for Sean O'Malley, and I think Sean O'Malley losing the belt was almost at fault to Sean O'Malley in that last fight because he looked a little bit tentative, you really didn't want to just shoot on a lot of them shots, he didn't want to walk forward as much. You see in the last round when Sean felt the confidence because he knew he was down. When Sean seen that and he just started pressing forward, he had Merab running. He was tagging Merab and Merab was bumbling around like a buffoon. Alright? So if Sean does that again, right, throughout rounds 1 to 5, he gets taken down because he was a little bit too aggressive, he was walking forward a little bit too hard, and he gets taken down in the first or the second. Dust it off, get up and try again. Alright, he has to have that Jack Della spirit, where, I know I'm fighting a dangerous grappler, but I cannot succumb to the fear of the takedown. You cannot wither away from adversity. You're up against a huge test in one of the best grapplers in bantamweight division, one of the best fighters in bantamweight division, one of the best cardio guys in the bantamweight division. You're up against a monumental task. You cannot wither away from adversity. You have to just walk forward, and you have to know that the takedown's going to come, and you've got to do what he did to become champ regardless. When he fought Aljo, Aljo's got a good takedown as well. But you didn't see him standing back and jabbing to the body. You didn't see any of that. He was still walking forward and looking for big shots, looking for fight enders. And he wasn't doing that against Merab majority of the time. He was teep kicking and low kicks and, body, jab the body. No. He's got to be the original O'Malley. He's just going to walk forward. And he's got to just, succumb to the fact that he's probably going to get taken down a few times. But he's just got to know that, hey, I got to trust in my takedown defense. I got to trust in my right hand, my left hand, whichever power hand he has. And he's got to go out there and he's got to try and knock Merab out. All right. And I think if there is a fighter who's been pushed his whole UFC career to do stuff like this, it's Sean O'Malley. All right. He's got a little bit of plot armor, and he's got a little bit of zang to him. I'm gonna drag that. But yeah. Look, guys, my final prediction for this fight is Sean O'Malley via knockout. I honestly think Sean O'Malley, that was my prediction for the first time these two fought. But like, Merab's getting older. Sean's also getting a little bit, he's not getting older, but he's getting up there in his age. Merab's getting older. Sean has an easy game plan to follow. I think it just all stacks up in the way of Sean O'Malley. Yes, okay, as if you watch the start of the video, I said I'm not a fan of either of these guys, so I'm not glazing Sean O'Malley, alright? I could completely see a world where Merab does the exact same thing to him again. But I'm a big believer, and the same thing just doesn't happen twice. The same thing doesn't happen twice. Like when Volkanovski fought Islam the first time, alright? Volk took him to deep waters, close fight, both fighters fought their hearts out, split decision. Islam wins. Second fight, Islam knocks him out because the same thing doesn't happen twice. I'm not saying Merab might knock Sean O'Malley out. Merab might knock Sean O'Malley out. But I don't see Merab dragging him down, wet blanketing him, having a close pit-a-pat fight. I don't see it happening again, guys. I see a big finish. I see a big finish coming. When you got these sort of mid-tier cards, and this is a mid-tier card, guys. This is very mid-tier. You got these sort of mid-tier cards, you need big moments to make the people go, oh, alright? So, Sean O'Malley by knockout. Kayla Harrison by either knockout or submission. Joe Pyfer by knockout. Big things happening. Mario Bautista by split decision. Vicente Luque by unanimous decision. Joshua Van, unanimous decision. Azmat Azmat by knockout. Waldo Cortez Acosta via knockout. Wang Chung, unanimous decision. Jusang Yo by submission. And Quillian Salakid versus he's going to win that by a decision. So yeah, that's all my picks right there, guys, in the flesh. I hope this video was a bit of an insight into what I was picking. Hope you guys might pick the same things. I don't know. Obviously, we're still a week out from this fight because I jumped the gun a little bit early on the 2025 mid-year mega fight, Blanchfield versus Barber. I jumped the gun on that a little bit, and I recorded it last week when it's this week. Alright, so as the day this video is being recorded, the current fight this weekend is Blanchfield versus Barber. I didn't do my research on that. I thought it was this weekend that's just gone, but it's this weekend now coming. And then so this fight card's next weekend. All right, so there's a little bit of time until this fight happens, and I might bring out a video. Who knows? We might change a few of these things. If you follow the Instagram, if you follow TikTok, I might have some things posted on there. A couple of changed plans. But I feel like I've put in some pretty good picks here, guys. Some decent reasoning for them. So yeah, thanks for watching. Alright. As always, like, subscribe, go check out my Instagram, my TikTok, both at Fight and Field Insights or Fight and Field. Rah, rah, rah. Thanks for watching. And I will see you in the next episode of Fight IQ. Enjoy your week and really get pumped up for this Blanchfield versus Barber fight, because it's got a whole lot of zing about it.